Okay, so in this one, what I'm going to do is just add a little bit more detail to this layout. So we'll add a border to our layout and just some text. So let's get started. So I added a little bit more detail to this, a little bit more around the windows. I separated these from the modifier actually because it was not rendering. So that's just going to represent some timber that's going to be on the door to match what's on the garage door. So a little bit more detail also around these windows here. So the other thing I want to do is just add an outline. So if you wanted to add an outline to this, what I might do is just right click here, place the cursor, Shift A, I'm going to add a plane. Okay, it comes in lying flat, so we need to rotate on the X by 90, so RX 90. I'm going to press S and just scale this up. So really what I want to do is just fit it into the frame of the camera a little bit. So maybe something like this. I'm going to scale it on the X and just position it to something like this. That's close enough. It doesn't have to be perfect right now. So I'm just going to come back up here for a second. And you can see we have a non-uniform scale and a rotation of 90. So what I want to do is just zero these out and bring the scale back to 1. So I'm going to press Control A and choose rotation and scale. And now we have a rotation and a scale of 0 and 1. So I'm going to tab into edit mode. And the first thing I'd like to do is round these corners. You can leave them square if you want, but what I would do is press Control Shift B and drag the cursor. Okay, so you can have a chamfered edge, or if you roll a mouse wheel, you can get a little bit of a curve on your edges. Okay, so maybe something like this, and left click. The other thing I want to do then is if I press A once or twice, I'm going to press I to inset and just drag this in slightly to give myself a border, left click. I'm going to press delete and choose faces. So I have a nice thin border right the way around there. I'm going to come back to object mode. If I come over to the material tab, I'm just going to pick the black text, I think, just to match the color there. So I'm going to right click up here, Shift A again. I'm going to add a plane. Again, I'm going to rotate on the X by 90. I'm going to scale on the X, just drag this out. We drag this over. So if you wanted to put some text in here, what I might do is, again, I need to zero out the rotation and bring the scale back to 1. So Control A and choose rotation scale. Tab into edit mode. So what I'm going to do is Control R, roll the mouse wheel, get 3 cuts, left click once and right click. If I select these 4 corners now, I can press Control Shift B. Again, I want to round them. So I'm just going to drag and roll the mouse wheel, something like this, and left click. I'm going to switch to face selection. Select this one and just press P and choose separate by selection, and the same for these ones. So I just want separate objects, really. That's what I want there. So with the cursor here, I'm going to press Shift A and add some text. I'm going to rotate on the X by 90, press G, maybe scale this down a little bit. I'm going to tab into edit mode and just delete that text, and I'm going to type in front elevation. I can tab back to object mode, and on the material I'm just going to pick that black text for the moment. The other thing I might do is select one of these and add a new material. Just maybe give it a light blue. It's not too important. I can select these 3, shift select the last one, Control L and just link them by material. So I can just maybe position this down here, press Shift D to copy it. Maybe you want to add a date, so I'm just going to delete that text, type in date. So if I come back now to object mode, so what I'm going to do is just give this a quick render. So hit the render down here, and when that's done, I'm going to come down and just drag this up and switch to that measure it output, and that looks a little bit better with some information on it and curved edges. The other thing is, if I come back to my render settings, I need to increase this to 100% to get a better quality. Okay, I have a PNG set, and then again it's just a matter of coming back here and rendering this again. Okay, and when that's done, it takes a little bit longer to render, so I'm going to come back and open up this. So the quality looks a lot better there. Okay, and that's going to do it for this one.